welcome you to History at High Noon, and I want you to always remember to thank the library for hosting us, for having the good equipment for us, making our coffee and welcoming us, and it's very good to have them. We have a good home here at the library, so if you get a chance, say thank you to them, because they take good care of us. We will not have a meeting in December. We always skip December. We'll start again in January. And our committee, that's myself and Diana Hayes and Bonnie Lang and Rosalie Johnson, are always welcome to have you call us if you have a program in mind. And we book your way into, well, 2016, okay. It does take time sometimes to put a family history together. So, you know, if you are thinking about doing that, or you have a program that you'd like to do. But we've got some things lined up, but they're just not firm enough for me to say positively yet, and we will. So the last time Millie was here to do the Key City Writing Club, the Christmas tree that was going to Washington, D.C., the national Christmas tree, was going through town, and I don't remember, something else was going on. We didn't have too many people that came. And so she very graciously said she'd do it again. And I knew doggone well if we had a good day, we'd pack the house. We always do with Millie. So I'll just introduce Millie Humphrey, who's going to tell us about the Key City Writers. And thank you, Millie, for coming.
Well, I guess I better put this down a little. Can you hear me now? Our Key City Writing Club actually was organized September 25th, 1945. That's been just a few years ago. And several of us would, over the years, we would go trail riding, you know, up in the hills, and usually we'd go trail riding. And so finally, back in the 1940s, it seemed like clubs were the thing. Every town in the Black Hills had a riding club. And I know Rapid City had the Boots and Spurs Saddle Club, Deadwood Lead had a club, Spearfish had one, St. Ange had the St. Ange Rough Riders, and of course we decided we would organize and have the Key City Writing Club. And we met, I think there were 6 of us met at the Cozy Kitchen Cafe. That was back in 1945, and I'm the only one left of those. And you might remember some of their names: Horace Farnsworth, Jim Haley, Neva Larson, George Tarrant, Garrett Owens, and myself were the ones who met and organized the Key City Writing Club. And we decided that we would do something besides just trail riding. So one of our members was Burr Cobb, and he had been a soldier at Fort Meade. He was a sergeant with the Black Horse Troop at Fort Meade, and so he said that he would be our drill master and teach us the same drill that the Black Horse Troop used. And that meant many hours of practice. I can remember meeting up at the fairgrounds every evening after work, and he would lead us through all these maneuvers that we had to do. And some of the horses were good, some of them weren't so good, and this drill always ended with a fire jump. And of course, most horses are afraid of fire. And so there were a few wrecks at practice, but when we go and perform at the Days of 76 or Rapid City Range Days or the Belfouche Roundup, we never had a mishap. Every horse jumped through that. What they would do, we had a jump that was probably only about three feet high. And then there was an archway built up over that. and it would be wrapped with gunny sacks that had been soaked in gasoline. And when our drill was about to end, someone would light that so it was on fire. And of course, most horses are afraid of fire. And so I don't think we ever had a wreck when we performed at one of the rodeos, but we had a few up at the fairgrounds when we practiced. And I think that, I don't know how many years, we probably did that for about 6 years, and then some of the children took over after that, and I think they were still performing in the 1960s and still going by the Key City Riding Club. And I don't know whatever happened, if it just phased out or if there are still some members here who did belong to the riding club. And I have a book that's here on the table. The cover was designed by Dorothy Philipper Northcutt, and there's of course a lot of information in that book. It's here in the archives at the library, and they let me borrow it for today. And up here on the table, there's a picture of our riding club at the Days of 76 in 1948. If you'd like to, as you leave, if you'd like to go through and look at that. And we're out in front, and we always wore a sort of uniform. Our uniform was black shirts with white ties, and we all wore gray saddle pants and gray cowboy hats for our drill. And our horses, we decided that we would really dress them up. So what we did, we decided on the color yellow, and we had a 24-horse drill team, and then we had one lady who carried the American flag and one who carried the club flag. And so we decided that we would have boots made for all the horses. So the man who had the, I'm trying to think what his name was now, he used to have the saddle, no, it was the boot shop in Sturgis. Does anyone remember what his name was? It was right on Main Street.
Dave somebody, was it?
Dave's
Art Donato?
Pardon me?
Was it Art Donato?
No, it was before him. Dave, anyway, his name was Dave's Shoe Shop. So we decided that we would have the horses wearing boots. So I can remember we got some lightweight, I don't know, it was some kind of lightweight canvas, and my mother made boots for all the horses, and we took them down to the saddle shop, and Dave put buckles, 2 buckles on each one, so that we could put them on our horses. So we used those always when we did our drill and in parades. So it was kind of colorful, all that bright yellow. And then we also had our saddle, we had saddle pads that covered the regular saddle blankets that were on the horses, and they were bright yellow. And then the bridles, we used kind of dressmaker's tape and covered the nose bands and the brow bands with yellow. So you could see us coming for a long ways. But I can remember poor Dave when we took those boots to the saddle shop. I mean, that meant 4, for every horse. And he put buckles on all of them. So I guess there isn't too much else that I have to say about the club, except we always had a lot of fun. That was one thing. It was, besides participating in rodeos and at different events, a lot of us, we would go trail riding up in the hills and sometimes spend all day riding. And then at that time, every town, had a saddle club. So like the Boots and Saddle Club from Rapid City and Deadwood and Lead and the St. Ange Rough Riders, the Spearfish Club, and our club, sometimes we would, what we did, we formed the Black Hills Riding Club Association. And so then we would get together and sometimes go on all night, all day rides, camp out overnight. We used to go up to Nemo. There used to be a CC building that was up there, and it was equipped with a kitchen. And I know Jim Haley used to always cook the meals for everyone up there. We would go up and stay overnight, camp out, sleep out under the stars. And except one time there was we had a thunderstorm at night. I remembered everyone had to bring their sleeping bags or quilts or whatever they were using inside the building. So, but there was room for everyone. So, anyway, that's about that's the story of the riding club. Does anyone have any questions? Carrie?
Tell us a little bit about, besides the fire jump, what other kinds of things you did out in the arena for entertainment. What were they like? What were the drills like?
The drills were, I know, I can remember when we would come in with the two flag bearers in front, and we would circle the arena one behind the other, so that would be 26 horses out there. Then we would come down the center, and we would come single file. Then when we came back around, we would join, another one would come up, and so two would come abreast down. Next time 4, the next time 6, until we were, I know if you look over here in on this table in this book, there are some pictures, and there are some here of the, you can see us where we're coming up side by side at the arena, and some over, let's see, I think this is probably the only one where we're coming up all 24 abreast. I think that's probably it. Any more questions?
Well, I saw that Millie had a lot of friends who came in here, were visiting with her. Maybe you have some memories that you want to share too of the club, or maybe ask her some questions that she maybe hadn't thought of. She brought wonderful pictures, and there's one there that Casey Tipps's plane is in it.
Yes, his airplane. He flew in, so his plane is parked behind the arena there.
Does anyone have any questions?
Who were some other members of the riding club? You talked about Jim Haley, and I know you and Dad were involved.
Oh, there were,
You know, like Gwen Davenport, wasn't she?
yeah, Gwen Davenport rode with us. She was only 13 or 14, but she never did ride with the drill team, but she would come up and practice with us, rode with us in parades. I'm trying to think. Well, Pearl Hoyle rode with us for a while, and Clarence used to ride once in a while also. I mean, I can remember looking at the pictures. None of them are left. I guess I'm the only one left out of the original group. Patty Larson Haley, and Janet Sherman rode with us. And they are probably, let's see, Bill Kinney. I think they're the only ones living that I know of that rode with us. They were just kids at the time.
There were both men and women then?
Oh, yes, yes.
Was Dad in it or just rode in it occasionally?
No, just sometimes would come up and practice with us. In case someone was missing, we had some extras because you never knew what might happen. Someone, maybe their horse went lame or they were sick or something. So we did have some extra riders who would fill in for us when we did our drill.
I saw one picture that it looked like you and Dad were going over a fire jump. It looked like him and you, but I wasn't sure.
No,
It wasn't
it
him.
wasn't. I think it was Les Horton and
It
I.
was less the way it was riding, it was like cowboy, and I.
Yeah. Well, that was Les.
So, was there a relationship with Fort Meade with the cavalry or anybody connected with the cavalry, Mom?
Well, our drill master was Burr Cobb, and he had ridden with the Black Horse Troop at Fort Meade, and that's why we got him.
That's just because Dwayne walked in front of
Yeah.
him.
Anyway, that's why we got him to be our drill master, so he could teach us the drill that was done by the Black Horse Troop.
Fort Meade had a separate club. New Seventh, right?
And we also used to do our drill at the old arena right south of Fort Meade, where the cavalry used to do theirs years ago. And I can remember the fence had fallen into disrepair after the cavalry left. In fact, there was nothing left, and we spent 5 days rebuilding the fence, and we even built on one corner a jump. I think it was only a 2-rail jump, so only about maybe 3 feet high or something like that. But we used to, when we would do our drill out there, as we left, we would go out of the arena, and we would all jump that jump as we went out. So that was always fun.
Millie, when did the riders disband, or how long did you keep riding as a group?
Until let's see, I left the Saddle Club in 1949, and I know our original riders were still riding probably till 1958, and then some of the younger ones took over.
And so it looks to me like you went around the hills to the parades. Did you go to Belfouche and Rapid City?
Yes, we'd ride at the Rapid City Range Days Rodeo, the Belfouche Roundup, the Days of '76, and back in those days, we didn't have the fancy trailers, like people have now to transport the horses. And Bud Bowen had an old truck, and I can still remember he could probably only put 8 horses in that truck when we'd go somewhere, so you can realize how many trips it took him to transport all our horses. And we would just jump them in the back of the truck and tie them up, and that's the way we traveled around. When we went to Deadwood, we would ride up. We'd go up Boulder Canyon early in the morning. And I can remember we used to camp out by the fairgrounds, and all the Native Americans camped out there too. And does anyone here remember Mrs. Ramsey?
Ella?
We call Ella Ramsey, Ma Ramsey. Well, the first few years when we went to Deadwood, we would get, Tom Delaney used to be a cook at the Cozy Kitchen Cafe. We would have him come up, and we had a chuck wagon. And it was outfitted with the old stove, you know, the ones like we used to have back in the olden days. Burn coal. We usually had wood along that he would use to heat that up, but he would do all his cooking on that. And sometimes we would, one year Tom couldn't come for some reason or other, so we got Ma Ramsey to be our cook. And that was very entertaining. Anyway, we had a lot of fun times and lots of good memories going back to that. I wish some of the ones who used to ride with us were here.
You make it really she doesn't make it come really alive. You can almost see them riding up Boulder Canyon and getting up there to the parade. Weren't those horses tired? And you guys tired? Because that's a pretty good hefty.
Oh, that's only
I don't know anything about horses, how
14.
tired they get.
12 to 14 miles. That wasn't
Good
very
road
far.
there.
2 hours.
Yeah, we rode pretty fast. Francis Haley, everyone remembers Francis Haley. He was our leader going up the canyon, so we didn't waste any time.
Did everyone have their own horses, or did someone supply horses for some of the riders?
Well, most of them had their own horses. I was the only one, I think, that didn't have a horse of my own until the last year that I rode with the group. I had my own horse. But so I would have a different horse every year to train. And so
That's something in itself. Yeah. You stop to think about it, that she had a different horse all the time.
Did people loan you their horses and you had to train them, or what happened?
Well, now Archie Haley always had horses, and so I used to get one of his to ride. I rode his one horse. There's a picture of Tippy Tin and I. He used to like to have his horses shown, and so I used to take her like to Rapid City when they had the horse shows down there, and then at Fort Meade, we always had horse shows at Fort Meade, take her out there, and we won several firsts at horse shows, and then I won first, I know, on ladies' horsemanship with her also.
And what kind of horse was she?
She was American saddlebred.
What other horses did you use?
Oh, had couple of quarter horses at different times. And then finally I had my own horse, Breeze, and he was quarter horse.
And how did you acquire your first horse?
The guy that I married. that was an incentive.
So you're saying that was kind of a bribe?
I think so. But it worked.
Yeah.
Whatever
For
worked.
the bride. Yeah, bride for the bride.
Any more?
I don't think much more of this, Millie.
Oh, well, I could answer questions all day. Well, thank you for coming, everyone. It's been fun being here and seeing all these familiar faces. I have 3 daughters down here in the front row. I don't know if you know them. There's Carrie Greer, Colleen Salzer, Susan Humphrey.
Well, thank you, Mom. Thanks for coming.
if you want to go, this old history book over here, the cover was made, I don't know if any of you ever knew the Philippers from here in Sturgis. Dorothy Philipper, and then later her name was Northcutt. She did a lot of leather work, and she made the cover, the leather cover for the Key City Riding Club history book. And this, of course, is, like I said, it's a panoramic picture of us at the days of '76 and 1948, if you'd like to go through and look at that picture there. And of
Were all
course,
the
you can
horses-
always look at these.
Millie, were all the horses jumpers? Did you all jump through that ring of fire at the end?
They had to be. It wasn't,
Part of the drill.
that's right, it wasn't whether they wanted to. You know, horses are afraid of fire, so we had a few wrecks at times, but no one ever got hurt. I mean,
Were there other jumps too, other than the ring of fire?
no, we just, oh yeah, we had the jumps, like when we'd go out of the arena out at Fort Meade, we had to jump over it was a 2-rail jump going out. They were all trained to do that.
That takes a lot too, to train them all.
Maybe tell everybody when your last ride was. When were you last on an animal and what was it?
You mean back then, or?
No, just recently.
Well, now I ride a mule. And
And when was the last time you were on the mule?
last month, Carrie and I did 16 days, or I mean 16 hours.
16 miles.
Yeah, 16 miles up. We did part of it on the Mickelson Trail, and
Well, no, that was the time before. We
Oh.
were on single track up
oh,
on Spearfish.
that's right.
Tinton and Old Baldy
We did.
up there.
That's right. Yeah, I have a mule that I leave out with Carrie, with her horses. I think he kind of thinks he's a horse. But I've had him for, I bought him 14 years ago. And he's 25 now, but he's still ready to go all the time. He feels bad if Carrie puts other horses in the trailer and he gets left in the corral.
Didn't you ride on some of the recent wagon trail rides too, here in the last few years?
The Fort Pier to Deadwood.
Oh, Carrie, my 2 daughters here, Colleen, Carrie, and I, we did the Fort Pier to Deadwood ride. Camped out at night. Of course, it wasn't like we used to camp out. Carrie has a living quarters trailer. So we had beds inside.
Why don't you tell us about your riding the horses at Fort Meade, the cavalry horses?
Oh, that's been a long time ago when the 4th Meade Cavalry was stationed out there. But anyway, my older sister dated one of the cavalrymen, and he was actually the one who gave riding lessons to the new recruits that came in. So on Sundays, we would have our choice of horses to ride. And I remember going out to Fort Meade, and most of the horses were all thoroughbreds. All of them about 17 hands. And I know we'd always use something, to get on, but just getting off, it's a long way to the ground. But we used to do that every Sunday. We'd go out and we would ride what's now BLM land, was the 4th Cavalry trails. And now Carrie and I ride those a lot, some of those same trails that I rode back in the 1940s.
Millie, in 1951, or close, my dad came up to Fort Meade and bought a cavalry horse. You talk 17 hands. I was 6, Jeanne was 9, and Dale was 12, and we used to ride him just flat out. And if we'd fallen off,
It's a long way to the ground. Yeah, I know Jim Haley used to go down to Fort Robinson and buy some of the cavalry horses.
it might have been where he bought it, I thought it was out at the fort.
Yeah, their Whistler is the horse that he used. He rode that horse in the drill team. I remember he and Jimmy Matlick were the two lead riders on the drill team to go through the fire jump. Some of the horses didn't really like that jump, but if the first two horses go through and you get the others crowded up right behind, they'll follow the first two. So Jim Haley and Jim Matlick went over the jump first and we all followed. Any other questions?
I was curious about what made Mrs. Ramsey's cooking so interesting.
Well, it was the fact she was a good cook, of course, but she had the type of personality. I don't think you would ever find someone that would say an unkind word about Ma Ramsey. She was, I can remember when my mother and I first moved to Sturgis, we moved into a house right across from where Ella Ramsey and her children lived. And so I knew her for many, many years, and we were always very good friends. Anything more?
Say something about the race, the 100-mile race. The horses. Wasn't it Jim Haley's horses?
Oh, Jim Haley that entered the race. Well, I think he probably, the race, there was a purse of $1,000 for the one who came in first, and back in the 40s, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I think he planned to win it, but we found out later at a vet check, the vet said that his horse was lame and made him withdraw from the race, but the horse wasn't lame. Because my husband was along, and he was kind of an ex-veterinarian, and he said it was a put-up job because they wanted this other horse to win the race, so that's why they disqualified Jim. So things went on back then just like they do now. Any other questions? If not, well, thank you very much for coming.
Just the lady did this thing without a lot of notes, just about 1 or 2 words on it. She did that whole thing from memory. But I tell you, it's really good. Thank you, Millie.